Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Tinian's run on Detective Comics. Tim Drake has returned after a long imprisonment, battling his future self and learning a lesson from out of thin air because substantive writing is really difficult. Let's pick it up with Fall of the Batmen, the dissolution of the Belfry team by Batwoman not living up to the expectations of a teenager she barely has contact with. Seriously, give me one example of Red Robin being in awe of her, please.
If I was any dumber, they'd have to water me twice a week.
Issue 969 sees former police commissioner Michael Akins, now mayor, addressing the issue of Batman's secret army to some reporters. He's not really endorsing or opposing the Dark Knight, admitting the occasional need for extraordinary help in some situations, not seeing evidence of alleged paramilitary actions, as they're called, but does state that Gotham doesn't need a second police force. In the Visitor's Lounge of Arkham Asylum, Steph is visiting Anarchy incognito, though for the life of me I can't figure out why. He mentions the tension felt by the city, which we haven't seen, but take the dialogue's word for it. But that alleged tension is what's needed before something breaks and change happens, making people question the comfortable status quo and if they want to wield power for themselves.
Or, breaking it just makes things worse. Kinda like the whole Flashpoint reboot. And Tinian.
Lonnie said he always wanted to empower people, not hurt them, exemplified when he dropped rubble on officers and attacked spoiler alert for her individuality. He figures that she understands on some level, which is why the first victim told him to seek her out. The victim syndicate has become a growing movement, and a closer look at their ideology may make her want to join. Again, all stuff we've never seen. Before she leaves their game of some version of life, he hands her an address to visit in a few weeks, before she makes a final decision. Maybe a specific day or time is on the paper he gives her, but who can be sure? She starts to leave, insisting she shouldn't have come here, because that somehow makes the dumb decision better, when she's stopped by Basil, who is playing chess with Glory, oddly in the same orange jumpsuit as all the other inmates. She gets mad because he used her real name, which she didn't use to sign in, because disregarding subterfuge is suddenly bad now, despite being a mainstay for this writer. He starts playing the pronoun game, asking if he's found her yet, and she assumes he means Batman, at which point she says she needs space and leaves before he can clarify.
Like I said last episode, it's ludicrous that no one told her Tim was alive, more so now that he's free. If you need to stretch things out by making your characters dumber, then it doesn't really inspire confidence in the moment to which you're building up.
She talks to her dad's enshrined costume, which I guess is not a hologram, about how Lonnie's mentality is contagious and she should break ties with him. But she sees a similarity to Tim, how both are so certain on how to help people. Yeah, and remember that time Red Robin belittled and attacked you? So like those two. A surprise knock on the door yields a really long rant by someone off-panel, including the line, "It all sounds ridiculous and it misses the point," which is a perfect descriptor for a Tinian script. She tears up, gives a yikes, a really weird expression. I don't know why, maybe it's the shading, but her face looks off somehow, like they were going for one emotion but ended up with something more horrifying. Anyway, it's, unsurprisingly, Tim, and they start making out. I guess his rant was proof he wasn't an imposter or something. He's learned how to improve things as he completes the Gotham Knights protocol, and she figures this means he'll move on to IVU as intended, and she wants to apply as well.
Because the school that's been talked up as really prestigious would just let her enroll, no problem. After all, she can just say that she's really smart, do very dumb things, and admittance will be a snap. It'll be like the movie Legally Blonde. Except with Tinian's version of Stephanie Brown, expect IVU to be set on fire 3 times per semester.
First, though, Red R wants to finish what he started, with her help, assuring that the team wants her back. 3 weeks later, Killer Moth assembles representatives of Gotham's most profitable criminals. Their bosses have lost money because vigilantes have managed to stop their crimes and leave the scene in minutes, not even requiring the bat signal to be lit up. Which he could be making up for all we know, since we haven't seen it. He shows photos he was given, proving Batman's assembled a sort of city-centric Justice League, which for some reason has an older version of the Batwing suit. and they've practically eliminated all crime in town, allegedly. Good thing this is all told to us, because I'd hate to see any kind of imaginative, innovative techniques that would go into an operation capable of reducing crime so dramatically. That would have been so boring in a visual medium, right? No longer accepting being treated like a joke, Moth will help them out with a team of his own, including Mr. Zaz, Ratcatcher, Firefly, and Solomon Grundy. For a price, of course.
We can only accept cash or gold right now. My PayPal account's suspended, and I haven't figured out how this Patreon thing works.
Batwoman and Red Robin are watching this all from a skylight, as Kate swerves the conversation. Steph is on board because she thinks it's temporary, and they'll soon be off to IVU. But it seems Drake no longer plans to attend the university, and keeping that from Steph isn't right. Tim's convinced she'll see the good in their work and want to stay. She's already so much happier just getting to spend time with Cassino again.
Yes, because they've had so many warm and heartfelt moments, like Steph telling Orphan to leave so she can yell at her boyfriend, that one time they hugged, and when Steph said Cassino was barely human. Such great memories.
He's stopped behaving like he'll turn the Belfry over to someone else, and once the glow of his return fades, Steph will realize he plans to be the next Batman. Drake says that's not quite so. He doesn't want to become like his murderous future self, but if he accepts what the future will be, he might be able to shape it into something better. With everyone in place, Grundy is revealed to be Clayface in disguise, and the team moves in. I just want you to know, Drury, this was a very good idea.
But this is a Tinian book, so of course the execution wasn't going to stick the landing.
Batman pays a visit to Mayor Akins, who's also received images of the team to his honor's chagrin. And probably not because it looks like Clayface is molding himself to look like a plush toy. On the surface, it appears that the group supplants the justice system, employs teenagers, as well as convicted murderer Clayface, and the mayor wants to know where this ends. Maybe if Bats mentions that he suddenly started feeling bad about his crimes, that'd make it all better. We go to Lonnie, disappointed that Steph went back to the team over Red Robin, while the first victim is being suited up by Arkham guards. The reassembled victims syndicate sent out the team's photos, naturally, ready to see them fall because of one of their own, as they stoked the city that's apparently trembling in fear, boogity boogity boogity.
But I thought crime was plummeting. What exactly is the city afraid of? Spiders? Heights? Alligators crawling up through their toilets? What?
Number 970's cover shows someone thought that first Vic was supposed to be Red Skull, or wanted Red Skull for the story, but forgot he's at Marvel. Tim wakes from a nightmare of his future self's warning of impending doom, and is comforted by Stephanie. She says taking micronaps is no substitute for real sleep, and isn't convinced he's okay. She even brings up the memorial case for his suit, though no mention of how it was stolen. Seems like it'd be important to at least acknowledge for the heroes, but whatever. Drake changes subjects to more plans for Belfry operations, bringing in Barbara Gordon's Oracle systems and maybe even Huntress and Black Canary, having numerous bat signals around the city, and bat ambulances that Leslie Tompkins could help with. He read up on the cases he missed while he was captured, and was a little down because he knew how he would have stopped them, but once he can get the system self-sustaining, he can take care of himself and their relationship. More on that later. Meanwhile, Batman, Batwoman, Batwing, and Azrael intercept then fight some cyber ninjas programmed with rudimentary versions of the team's fighting styles, which is only confirmed by Luke's scans after Bats caught on when the mechanoids popped out of the van and started moving. Seriously, they're in transit, they haven't really moved that much before Pointy Ears accurately guesses their entire deal.
Is this supposed to make up for the lack of actual detective work in previous issues? Just having him figure out in one panel what's going on? Because I can honestly say it doesn't help.
Between this and the photos from Mayor Atkins and Killer Moth, it seems someone is weaponizing their whole team dynamic. And I'm not sure if it's that or headbutting one of the biogoons that makes him give this really weird and goofy smile. I'm gonna go with head trauma. Clayface is with Dr. October, who's certain a cure is only a few days away because the bioweapons expert is self-declared intelligent and talented.
Oh, good, we can all rest easy. Another character in a Tinian story that's made thoughtlessly stupid decisions has said they're really smart. It's a good thing Dr. October said Dr. October was really intelligent. Otherwise, how else would we know we're supposed to think Dr. October was really intelligent? By seeing Dr. October do something intelligent? That's just crazy talk.
Recalling what he did to Glory Griffin, Basil begins breaking down, wondering if he's even deserving of the cure given all the hurt he's caused and how the darkness may stay with him forever. Victoria says that at least knowing can be powerful, speaking from personal experience vis-a-vis gender reassignment surgery, and that it can make Carlo strong. In Kate's personal HQ, her dad pops up unexpectedly, and instead of a fight or rest, he stitches a wound on her back and says he got rid of Ulysses Armstrong. Yeah, good idea. Just let the unstable sociopath wander around on his own. After being filled in on future Tim, Jacob adds that he also received a mystery dossier on the Belfry team and people are terrified.
Look, Tinsy, either show us people being terrified of how effectively the superheroes are saving lives, or don't try to make it a part of your little story. I know you're in love with your own style of writing, but maybe trust the artists you work with to get the point across. You are not good enough that we should take you at your word.
On the outside, the team looks like an attempt to supplant law enforcement, which to some people the Colonel knows is a line they've been waiting for the Dark Knight to cross so they can shut him down. Despite Kate saying that wouldn't happen, it doesn't appear that either she or Bruce are calling the shots, as Jacob also received a message from Red Robin with a proposal to work together. And design sketches for his costume? Clayface talks with Orphan while fighting cyber assassins in their own factory, saying it's easy being a hero because all he has to do is what Batman tells him, and it feels pretty good. But after he's cured, he'll be on his own instead of prowling the streets for bad guys. Cassino assures him he'll be okay. He'll have a life again, whereas she can't be put back. So she chooses to fight in this life that's not normal.
Including the Eternal books, that sequence of words is probably the worst imitation thus far of Cassandra Cain's pattern of speaking when she started. At least where Tinian's concerned. I think one other writer had her say, "I free now," which kind of makes her sound like that woman from one of the Rambo movies. "You not pawn!" And additionally, you're a ninja alongside a mud monster fighting robo-killers taking orders from people that dress like bats. This is normal when you live in Gotham.
If he goes and screws up his life again, she'll just hit him. But they can still rehearse Shakespeare when he's just a regular dude, so feel things or some tripe. Honestly, Orphan's advice sounds less like it's coming from the character and more from the writer, if that makes any sense to anyone. In the Belfry, Tim confronts Steph about the images being spread around having come from her phone. She's offended, thinking that he's already convicted her without considering that he could be wrong, totally unlike how she thinks she's never wrong. But he makes a point that this fits what she told Batman she would do when she left the team. She has him pull up the phone's core programming, where she immediately finds the Money Spider program, which she knows was from Lonnie Machin, aka Anarchy. Something that super tech computer genius boy Tim didn't notice because we needed some artificial tension. Oh, but there's more. She called Ivy University on a hunch and confirmed her suspicions that Tim withdrew from their program and is staying to operate the Belfry, allegedly not caring about the victims in his wake. Whatever that's supposed to mean. She leaves to find Anarchy, and whether she's also leaving the team or Tim remains to be seen.
How dare you make decisions about your life that aren't exactly what I want them to be? Who do you think you are, an individual? Oh, look at me, I'm Red Robin, I'm trying to find the best ways to save people's lives. That's what you sound like, that's you.
Tim pulls up security feed from Arkham to check on Lonnie, but his cell and the block itself are completely empty. At the asylum itself, Clayface admits to Glory that he'll always be the one who hurt her, then offers October's cure, promising she'll never have to see him again afterwards. But she doesn't want that. She'd rather let her deformity be a reminder to everyone of the kind of monster Clayface is. Some guards walk in and subdue Basil with a couple of stun batons. Seems a little simplistic if you ask me. It's not outlandish that Arkham would have some means of restraining Carlo for back when he was an inmate, but this seems way too easy, especially since he's allegedly been training with Batman. Glory adds that all of Gotham's news outlets were sent proof that the wanted shapeshifter has been working with Batman, validating the victim syndicate's message. She won't allow him to have a fresh start and takes his power-dampening bracelet, so the city will see what he really is.
Now we just have to wait about 12.5 hours. Surely none of his teammates will start looking for him in that time. We're all very smart.
Issue 971's cover is certainly doing that. I wonder if the phrase trying too hard is too polite. Anyway, word spread that the Syndicate has taken over the asylum and police have set up barricades. A recent college graduate nervously enters because they said they wouldn't hurt journalists, and why shouldn't we trust the criminally insane? Icing on the stupid cake is that the young woman would have been fired if she hadn't walked in. Sounds like it could be a good follow-up story when this is over. The first victim greets her, saying that Batman turned a place of healing into a gash where those fighting the power structure are locked up with the lunatics. There's a spiel about trying to rationalize the cops they killed as sadly necessary, though Mr. Noxious seems to want to take some credit for those deaths, rather proudly it seems. They walk past some complicit guards with red splatter on their suits before arriving at the cell where they're holding Basil. Firsties says that Glory's story should be told, since her life was destroyed by the crossfire between Clayface and Batman, which isn't really true. Since Mudface was introduced, it's been stated that Carlo's rage led him to douse her in the same chemicals that changed him. Bats was not involved, nor was some grudge. So either Edgy McBloodblood is lying, or the writer forgot his own canon. Either way, it's time to start the interview and rip this wound wide open.
I'm supposed to be opening the wound so that it can heal.
That is ridiculous.
We are supposed to sympathize a little with the victim syndicate, right? How they were unintentionally hurt by Batman's war on crime and everything. So why is their leader lying about another member's tragedy? And did anyone happen to mention that you're not supposed to pick at your scabs? Sounds like a declaration to make things worse, which is totally Tinian's wheelhouse.
If a wound is closed, it's already healing.
We get a two-pager that looks like the layouts folk decided to take a sick day. In the Belfry, the team watches the news instead of mobilizing because we need to see Casino sad. Bats reiterates the group's demands that he unmask and give up his crusade, while Spoiler Alert admits she's partly to blame for this since it's her data being used, though not really seeming all broken up about it. She reveals that weeks ago she slipped into a meeting of civilians sympathetic to the Syndicate, like Anarchy asked. They planned a big protest where, partly due to Lonnie's influence, demonstrators would wear red on their faces and demand the end of Batman for what they're calling Victims' Day.
Yeah, some tension has been mentioned, and we've seen picketers a time or two, but if this portion of the story is going to have any kind of punch to it, we need more than the occasional passing reference to be really invested. It just feels like they have some stuff going on, and then saying, oh, and this other thing is happening because of reasons.
Essentially, attempts to make Tinian's twisted take on Steph seem driven to help people falls flat. It's dumb, she's dumb, and pre-52 Steph wouldn't be this dumb. She had her flaws, but this takes the aforementioned stupid cake. They begin discussing how to infiltrate the asylum when Batwoman intercedes, revealing Tim's communique with the colony. Funny that Spoiler Alert is chastising him because they tried to kill him when she kept hanging around with Anarchy. Red R was only considering it if they stopped using lethal force, and Orphan reminds them that Clayface needs help. Batman gets a call on the red phone, which only Gordon uses, except now, the first time we're seeing it, when it's Mayor Akins. He wants Bats to arrive at Arkham alone, work with the police, and after the threat is passed, they can discuss disbanding his team and leaving Clayface at Arkham. His honor further warns doing whatever he wants will have consequences. Batman apparently goes along with this, saying he'll go to the asylum solo with the team splitting into two groups to make sure the protests remain orderly. Mudface is torturing Basil, admitting she played along during their friendly visits, and hates him now as much as ever. He seems rather accepting of all this and just wants his bracelet back, but apparently still needs it spelled out to him that they want him to wig out. Oh, and Glory has already given her story to the News Off panel, which I have mixed feelings about.
On the one hand, it's weird someone like Tinian, who absolutely loves to evoke emotion in the easiest way possible, didn't take this opportunity to do that. On the other hand, he probably would have handed up to the point of unpleasantness anyway. Although it does fit his other love of tell instead of show.
Bats arrives at the Arkham gates, where Gordon says there are over 130 hostages, and intentions to start releasing villains until Batman surrenders. So he does. Anarchy is waiting by the gate, a reference is made to his pre-Flashpoint life, and Bats apparently thought Lonnie was better than this. That statement doesn't really have any foundational basis, but there's a lot of that going around in this series. They enter the asylum, where the Syndicate and the entire guard shift await. Batman activates a one-time energy field to lock down the entire building, feeling pretty confident he can take them all on. That's our Batman! How much you want to bet that when we come back to this scene, he's beaten just about everyone? For now, we go to the protest observed by Spoiler Alert, Orphan, and Red Robin. He's noticed that, according to his holomap, the people aren't marching anywhere near government buildings, police stations, Wayne landmarks, or anywhere that disrupts traffic. So these are pretty stupid protesters. Given the writer, I'm not shocked. Casino mentions the sewer, and Tim notes their marches are at sewer hubs, down the pipeline from Arkham, which we go to now and find Batman having beaten nearly everyone.
I wrote this script as I was reading from scans and editing them page by page, so I did not read ahead. I just saw it coming a mile away, because Tinian always does this. Tease a fight, cut away, come back to the end of the fight. I await my no prize, because this was no surprise at all.
I swear if Tinian had written an Arkham game, you'd be paying $60 for a 5-minute cutscene of someone crying. But trying to win a fistfight wasn't really the plan. Mudface is shot into the foyer, and it's unfortunate Bats turned off that shield he could only use once for some unknown reason. After some cops pour in, we see Clayface has destroyed his dampener, though it's the older model, not the newer one he actually had on earlier, but let's overlook that continuity error like all the others. But anyway, he's tired of feeling remorse for his actions. Real shame. With that cure, he really was a few days away from retirement. Number 972 has a cover of Batwoman training a sniper scope on Batman, asking if she'll pull the trigger. Yeah, because the story so far has set that up so well, it totally makes sense. Basil attacks his former leader, decrying the shell of a man he was, held back by self-loathing and being too drugged up to think straight. Even though he wasn't drugged with anything, but why should things make sense? He's embracing being the bad guy and not caring what people think or if they get hurt.
This is me now! This is me now! This is me now!
Knocked into a storage room for villain gear, Bats thinks he does care and is only lashing out because it's easier than facing how sad and alone he feels, and doesn't think Carlo will follow through on his threat to go to the Belfry and kill off some more sidekicks. Bruce uses one of Mr. Freeze's cold guns to chill him in place, but quickly realizes it was a ruse that he had learned in training, leaving a husk behind while he heads for the team's base through the sewers.
You got the done!
Clayface may not actually have to fight anyone, they'll probably just keel over from the smell. After a brief argument with the mayor, told about the riots in the streets and that Anarchy and Blood Clot escaped, Bats vows to make things right, but wants his honor to keep out of the way. From their escape van, Anarchy thinks now's a good time to get out to the people, guide them through a revolution for a better world. But the first victim has been waiting too long not to prioritize seeing the Bat Crew die.
Oh no, is this going to fracture their long-established and cemented alliance? They're so interesting and...
Red R, Steph, and Casino are with Dr. October, who believes the rampaging Basil is a protective shell after the victim syndicate drew out his worst fears about himself, making them so real that the good man they know is deeper inside.
What? They shocked him into submission, said stuff we already know, and kept him caged for more than 12 hours. This wasn't some calculated psychological game. It was playing on a weakness using a waiting game. And while the team was conveniently too busy or too stupid to look for him before he snapped. Stop trying to make your basic writing sound all intricate and deep, Tinian. You're not fooling anyone.
Also, why is he seen walking on the surface after saying he'd use the sewers? If it's misdirection, it's really bad misdirection, because the sewers would be faster. Anyway, the doc can have the much-boasted cure ready in 2 hours, but there's little certainty of how it'll affect Basil in his current state, like if he'll be locked in rage mode, for example. A small argument between Spoiler Alert and Red Robin reminds him of what his future self said about the team falling apart, and Batwoman's hand in it, so he calls her up. But she's talking with her dad right now. Jacobs brought her the last weapon Ulysses Armstrong made, a rifle to destabilize Clayface's molecules, effectively killing him. Batman would never allow that, but the Colonel gives it over anyway, partly because he believes Drake wanted to work together, and handing over something that could kill his teammate would be a show of good faith, and maybe they can find a way to make it non-lethal. Or if it otherwise becomes necessary. She leaves with the weapon as her father reminds her that he loves her and will always be there to help.
So, between Tim, who's a super genius now, and Luke, who's a super genius, and Batman, who's a super prepared super genius, none of them thought to have backup power dampeners at the ready for Clayface in case of a glitch or damage or monster rampage. Oh, right. I forgot. No matter how smart a character is said to be, actions prove everyone's a frickin' moron!
And they are so dumb.
After Carlos surprises Batwing and Azrael in the sewers, Kate arrives in the Belfry to say that the building has been evacuated, but that it just spills out into the protesters, who the mayor said earlier were rioting, but we haven't seen any of that yet. And why should we? She claims to have been on recon, but Tim doesn't believe her. Perfect time for Clayface to attack. He taunts them, particularly Bats, saying he was just using his membership on the team to stay out of Arkham, and he doesn't really care about any of them. Naturally, that's when he encounters Casino, since they're besties because shut up. And after failing to hit her, he reverts to Basil and starts crying. And I could only ponder the possibility of how powerful this would have been under a better writer, one that would have put in the actual work and effort and heart into developing a genuine relationship instead of a few scant moments of undeveloped mess. More bad news, the containment for the excess clay in the mudroom has been breached. It starts pouring on Carlo, overwhelming him, and he explodes as a giant on top of the tower, all according to the first victim's plan. Mwahaha!
Yes, the plan to exploit Clayface's weakness, drive him insane, send him conveniently back to Batman's secret base, and wait until a series of even more convenient events caused him to become a kaiju, all really paid off. Oy.